Okay, the next thing in the spreadsheets is kind of tricky to explain, but it makes a lot of sense. So, for example, I already did the math in here that this equals B4 times A4. One of the things you can do with spreadsheets is you can click on this little corner at the bottom of a cell and you can drag it down, and what it does is it doesn't copy the number in there, it copies the formula. But it adjusts, if you just click and drag it down, what it does is it adjusts the formula. So right here, it's B4 times A4. Because I drag down, this one is B5, the new row, times A5. B6, B7, B8, B9, B10, B11. So by dragging down, what it does is it takes this formula and it copies it for the cells that are relative to the formula. So, and another way to say that is we were multiplying this one by this one to get this one. When I drag it down, it's just going to take the whole thing down and say, okay, well, then this one times this one equals this one, and this one times this one equals this one. So that's what dragging down the formula is. Now, if that's a bit tricky, you can always just type it out, but this is really what makes spreadsheets powerful. This next step is kind of the interesting thing, and it's that you can lock cells. So I'm going to delete all these guys, and I have to think of an example. Let's say that I have let's say that I'm trying to figure out the tax. Let's say that I'm trying to figure out the tax involved with all this stuff, right? So the tax is usually this number times a rate. So let's say that I look up the tax rate and it's 0.15, which is 15%. Okay, so the problem is, and then I say that this total, so taxes is equal to this big number times this number up here, right? So 15% of 299 is 40 bucks. So that's where all your money goes. Oops, no, don't click, don't click. Okay, so one more time. Delete everything equals this number times this number, enter. Okay, now the thing is if I drag this down, it brought down C5, which is this one right here, but it's having an error because it also brought this whole one down, and right now it's on D3. So it dragged down the top and it dragged down the bottom. So that's only going to cause me errors. So what I'm going to do is delete this guy. I'm going to go back to this one, and the tax number will always be in D2. It'll never change. So what I want to do is I want to freeze D2 in my formula, and this is what kind of confuses people, but it's very simple. To freeze D2, all you have to do is type $D and $2. And that's about the weirdest thing that you'll ever do with a spreadsheet, is this little thing right here. So with the $, what that means is that this cell is not going to move when I drag it down. So if you watch, I click here and I drag down, I'm going to get a bunch of zeros, but I start typing numbers and the formula works totally fine. And that's because this yellow number, the C number, changes, C7, C8, C9, C10, C11, C12, C13. But because I froze D2, it's always pointing to this cell right here. Okay? So this is how you freeze a number. And honestly, that's basically everything you need to know about spreadsheets in order to do the next part, which is kind of figuring out how much stuff is going to cost and how much your time is worth.